Tired of grind fests, JRPGs with tons of dialogue, long as hell games, open worlds? Well, I'm back with 10 more JRPGs that defy those characteristics and therefore respect your time. So let's begin. Number 10, Tales of Symphonia. Symphonia is one of the most beloved Tales games for one reason. Anybody can get into it. One of those that gets more challenging as you advance, simple battle mechanics, difficulty settings, fun adventure, likable cast, etc. You might have to do some grinding if you play on normal or especially on hard, but not much really. Spikes are there, but nothing ridiculous like in other titles. A few slightly annoying puzzles, but then again, nothing frustrating. Yes, the Tales games are known for having a lot of dialogue, but nowhere near as much as others like in the Trails series. If the skits bother you, remember that they're optional and you don't have to see through them if you don't want to. The length of this game varies depending on what you do, as with any video game in existence, but playing on easy or normal and sticking to the main story will show you about 30 hours of playtime. Not bad, huh? Yeah, Tales of Symphonia is definitely a game that respects your time. Number 9, God Eater 3. What? Why is a Monster Hunter clone here? First of all, it's very different from those games, so it's not a clone. Story-driven, character-driven, missions are stages instead of a tiresome overworld exploration, you get the idea. Sure, you'll be fighting the same bosses over and over again, but I don't see how that wastes your time. If it isn't your type of game, then why play it in the first place? You can honestly fight through a couple of missions per session, and that's time well spent. Unlike its predecessors, it isn't as brutal, so you're not gonna die as often. It doesn't have a second or third stupidly challenging arc like them either, just a regular post-game. Once again, there's no leveling system, just the weapons crafting system. But most useful materials required to upgrade or craft are obtained from most story missions. No difficulty settings are here, but as I said, it's the easiest out of the trilogy. I think this third entry was precisely designed to respect your time. It learned from the brutality hardcore experience the previous two games rendered and offered balance in return. That's why I decided to include it in the video. Number 8, Breath of Fire 4. The only way in which this game will kinda waste your time is with the view. The camera angles aged poorly and you'll often struggle trying to get the best view to progress. Apart from that though, there's nothing wasted here. Every minute you spend with these characters and their journey will feel satisfying, never going overboard. Keep in mind it's a classic JRPG from the Golden Age, random encounters are there, and the exploration might fall short, somewhat annoying because of the camera, but it'll still respect your time. Now the challenge is balanced. It will only hold your hand as you learn the basics, but never after that. It's a good thing so you can find out on your own what to do. But if you ask me, I'd say I found the previous titles harder than this one, and the encounter rate isn't as high as in the first two. Oh man, those two. Anyway, I hope you appreciate this gem for what it truly is, and give it a chance despite its aforementioned issues. Number 7, Shadow Heart's Covenant. This sequel is nearly the perfect game, barely any wasted chit-chat, still comedic but never going overboard, a satisfying linear story with no different routes or even exhausting dialogue, a balanced experience despite the lack of difficulty settings. It's actually an easy game even if you stick to the main story alone. I don't remember having to grind a single time on both of my full playthroughs. Dungeons are designed carefully to avoid annoying the player. They are short, but also long enough precisely to respect your time. Sure, puzzles are there, but there's barely anything frustrating. Exploration includes random encounters, but the rate isn't high, and you'll have a good time wandering around. Finally, the pacing is excellent, not a slow start, and it rarely gets boring. Yes, you do need to play the first game to fully understand this one. Actually, does that one respect your time too? Not as well as Covenant, but yeah, sure. I never felt like it wasted my time. Encounter rate is a bit higher, it's a bit harder too, and there are some annoying puzzles, but it's a blast to play nevertheless. I'd say both games respect your time, but Covenant definitely does so in a more, well, respectful way. Number 6, Tales of Hearts. This is a remake of a DS game that never left Japan. Fortunately we got this, but it's still an exclusive on the PS Vita. Anyway, I think this Tales is just like Symphonia, in a way of respecting the player's time. I honestly can't decide which one is more challenging since they're both on the same balance level. Again, there might be a few spikes here and there and some grinding, but honestly, just the bare minimum. Other Tales games like Vesperia are kinda hardcore on normal mode. Symphonia 2 is another example. Others have complicated battle mechanics like races for example, and others are just really long like Berseria or Arise. Of course, they stretch a bit over the ideal playtime. Hearts is fun, with combat that's easy to get into, nothing convoluted in the equipment or skill tree system. It may rely a bit in creating combos, but it's far from comparing to Tales of freaking Graces for example. Again, if you feel the dialogue drags on, just try to enjoy it or skip the little skits if you want to. This is one of the very few Tales games out there that I feel definitely respects your time. Number 5, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Of course, this new game respects your time. It doesn't have a strong focus on the story, and most of the dialogue is talked during gameplay, either on a mission or during battle or a boss fight. I'd prefer Cactus to shut up and let me fight in peace, but that's beside the point. What I'm trying to say is that the dialogue is far from overwhelming and it usually stays on point. No need to grind here, at least not in the main game, on easy or normal, which are known here as story or action modes. I'm kinda lame at action RPGs and I beat the entire game on normal, so yeah, I trust you'll be fine. Worried about dying on a mission or near the end of a boss fight? Forget it, the game offers you a revival mode where you just mash a button to revive several times, or even your party members can do it for you. Actually, you have a similar feature in the God Eater series, but here it's just easier. This is how they compensate the brutality and longevity of the boss fights. Only 2 towns are available here and no overworld whatsoever, and what you do in town is the usual upgrades to characters and weapons and get side quests and report quests and blah blah blah, the usual stuff. These character episodes require the minimum reading and won't waste your time at all like in most visual novel RPGs. Besides, they're entirely optional. So there you have it, a modern action RPG that totally respects the player's time. Number 4 is 7. This is the first game in the series that introduced playable party members. You can switch between up to 3, including Adol, at any time. I think that's one of the reasons why the game was designed to avoid wasting the player's time. It balances things out this way, making you fight as the character that's strong against certain types of enemies in an easy way. Combat is awesome, controls are great, the challenge is there, but never impossible. Difficulty settings included here. Normal mode will require a bit of grinding, but in a game like this, where everything is fast-paced, you'll be done in a few minutes. I also think the exploration pays off with puzzles that aren't as annoying as in Salsetta. Areas don't drag on like in Lacrimosa, since the whole point of that game was the exploration. So you see, Ys 7 is a great game that respects your time, and it's honestly one of the best in the series. Number 3, Radiant Historia. I'm shocked to see I didn't include this game in part 1. It's the poster child of a JRPG that respects your time, doesn't waste it with meaningless chatter, useless slice of life dialogue, tons of cutscenes or visual novel shenanigans. There's no open world, no ginormous exploration, massive grinding, and lousy difficulty spikes. However, like most games in this list, it's not a walk in the park either, especially not a normal or hard, but it's not one of those that'll force you to go out of your way and, well, waste your time with 100 battles to level up. Also, the battle system is quite addicting, well thought out and entertaining enough to make your time feel well spent. And if you're worried about the time machine mechanic, the book letting you go back and make a different choice for a better outcome, forget it. The way it's implemented, it's masterfully designed for you to appreciate both outcomes all the same. Plus, it doesn't make you repeat hours of battles, story, or dialogue just to see the other routes or endings. It's genius! Number 2, Suikoden 2. I debated strongly with myself to include this game in the first video. It's a masterpiece, and you know I'm a diehard, but back then I thought a lot of people wouldn't think of it as a JRPG that respects their time because maybe recruiting dozens of characters is a waste of time for them. Well, all of that is optional. You don't need to recruit anybody to finish the game. Sure, you'll most likely get a, well, not so pleasant ending, but an ending nonetheless. Besides, nowadays there's a crap ton of guides explaining to you how to recruit everybody, so it's not like that's gonna be a waste of time either. So yeah, now that I think about it, this game definitely respects your time. Barely any grinding required, no ridiculous amounts of dialogue, encounter rate is tamed most of the time, difficulty spikes aren't really an issue here. And okay, why this game and not the other Suikoden titles? Well, 1 is too short and you can't run. 3 is too hard and long, 4 is too tedious and wastes your time at sea a lot, and 5 is too hard and long. All fantastic games for sure, but I believe Suikoden 2 gets the more love nowadays because it fits today's video's criteria very well. I'm hoping the upcoming remaster will have quality of life features that will respect your time even more. Number 1, NieR Replicant. Number 1 goes for yet another game that could have easily been on part 1, but hey, sometimes part 2 also have awesome masterpieces in them too. I think this remake, remaster, or whatever you wanna call it, respects the player's time extremely well. I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I won't repeat myself as to why. Every game in this list was included here for the same reasons. Balance, minimum grinding or none, difficulty settings, barely any spikes, on-point dialogue, etc. As a matter of fact, it can be treated in many different ways to play it. The game never overwhelms you with exploration or side quests like Automata does, and even that is a great game that I feel is more respectful than others. I know some of the puzzles and areas can become a chore and fill you with desperation, but this is an action RPG, no encounters in the middle of it, and no restarting areas or dungeons if you lose. Unless you die, of course. Also, if you do absolutely everything and 100% it, I doubt you'll make it past the 50-hour mark. So it respects your time even as a completionist. You know, as an honorable mention I wanted to include Super Mario RPG, but the remake. I think the Super Nintendo version kinda wastes your time a bit with some grinding and difficulty spikes. Still a great game though, but the remake fixed all of that, so yeah, I think this version definitely respects your time as well. Alright, those were some more JRPGs that are excellent and definitely respect your time. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!